Somewhere in the sky tonight, 63 light years away, it is raining glass, not frozen ice crystals, not water droplets. Molten silicate glass, launched sideways at 5,400 miles per hour, in winds that move at 7 times the speed of sound, around a planet that from a distance looks almost exactly like Earth. This world has a name, but it barely matters. What matters is what it is, and what it is the most violently hostile planet ever studied in detail. Here is the part that makes it genuinely eerie. When astronomers first got a clear look at it, their first instinct was to compare it to home. It's deep blue, the same vivid color as Earth seen from space. The kind of blue that suggests oceans, atmosphere, something familiar. For a brief window, it even entered mainstream coverage as Earth's twin. Then, the actual data arrived, and that comparison died immediately. The temperature on the day side of this planet sits at around 930 degrees Celsius. That is hot enough to melt silver, hot enough to melt aluminum, hot enough to turn most metals the average person has ever touched into liquid. The night side is cooler by a few hundred degrees, and still hot enough to melt lead, several times over. That is the cold side. This is not a planet with extreme weather. This is a planet where the baseline is extreme, and the weather is something else entirely. The reason it is the way it is comes down to one fact. This planet orbits its star at roughly 4.5 million kilometers. To understand how close that is, consider the scale. Mercury, the innermost planet in our solar system, the one we think of as the closest to the fire, orbits our sun at about 58 million kilometers. This planet sits 30 times closer to its star than Mercury does to ours. It is so close that it completes a full orbit in just 2.2 days. 2.2 days. Earth takes 365. Even Mercury takes 88. At that proximity, the star does not simply heat the planet, it saturates it. The planet's entire existence is defined by its relationship with the star. There is no aspect of what this world is, its temperature, its winds, its chemistry, its fate that is not a direct consequence of being that close. And because it orbits so close, it is tidally locked. The same mechanism that keeps the moon always showing the same face to Earth has frozen this planet in place, one side permanently facing its star, baking under continuous full blast radiation, with no night to cool it, no rotation to spread that heat, no relief ever. And one side locked in permanent darkness, never seeing its star, never receiving that energy directly, just sitting in a cold it can never escape either. The locked day side bakes. The locked night side broods in the dark. Neither side ever changes. Neither side ever gets a break. And the catastrophic temperature gap between those two hemispheres, one scorching, one cold, both fixed forever, is the engine that drives the most violent sustained wind system ever directly measured on any planet outside our solar system. Nature tries to balance the imbalance. It cannot, so it just moves air, faster and faster, trying to equalize what the laws of physics will not allow to equalize, and that effort is what you get, 5,400 miles per hour, forever. The winds blow from the scalding day side toward the cooler night side in a continuous planetary scale jet, directly measured using Doppler spectroscopy, tracking the movement of sodium in the atmosphere as different parts of the planet move toward and away from Earth. The wind speed came back at over 5,400 miles per hour. To make that number feel real, the fastest wind ever recorded on Earth peaked at 253 miles per hour during a cyclone in 1996. That wind flattened structures and pushed walls of seawater across coastlines. The wind on this planet is over 20 times that, 7 times the speed of sound, sustained, permanent, planet-wide. And this is not a storm. There are no storms here in any sense that word means on Earth. This is the planet's resting state, the baseline. What passes for calm on this world is 5,400 miles per hour. Now add what those winds are carrying. The atmosphere of this planet is laced with silicate particles, the same mineral compounds that make up granite, quartz, and the rocky crust beneath your feet. On Earth, silicates are solid. They form mountains. They make up most of the ground we walk on. On this planet, the temperature is far above their melting point. The silicates don't stay solid here. They can't. The heat dissolves them into tiny liquid droplets, molten glass, suspended in the upper atmosphere in a permanent haze. And that haze is why this planet looks blue. Those glass droplets scatter blue wavelengths of light, the same way particles in Earth's atmosphere scatter blue light to make our sky. The mechanism is almost identical. The result looks almost identical. It just happens to involve molten glass instead of air at temperatures that would incinerate anything biological wrapped around a gas giant with no ground to stand on. Those glass droplets do not drift gently downward. They are grabbed by 5,400 mile/hour winds and hurled horizontally continuously around the entire planet. What falls on this world is not rain in any meaningful sense. It is a permanent horizontal storm of molten glass moving faster than anything that has ever touched the surface of Earth. Standing in it, which is a thought experiment, not a possibility, wouldn't feel like weather. It would feel like being sandblasted by superheated shrapnel at supersonic speeds, in air that is itself hot enough to melt silver in a gravity field slightly stronger than Earth's, with no surface to land on, because this is a gas giant with no solid ground beneath the clouds at all. No material currently in existence could shield a probe long enough to study the surface directly. The toughest planetary landers ever built, the Soviet Venera probes, designed to survive temperatures over 400 degrees and pressures that would crush a submarine, lasted a maximum of 2 hours on Venus. This planet makes Venus look temperate. There is also no surface to reach. This is a gas giant, a world with no solid ground anywhere inside it that we know of. The clouds of molten glass are not floating above terrain. They are the planet. Descend far enough and the atmosphere just gets denser and hotter and more compressed until the pressure becomes incomprehensible. But there is no moment where you arrive somewhere. There is no bottom. Just an endless column of increasingly violent gas, heat, and pressure, with glass raining sideways through all of it. And the star is not done with it. The host star is active, throwing powerful flares of X-ray radiation that periodically bathe the planet in energy intense enough to heat its upper atmosphere to tens of thousands of degrees. When one of those flares hits, the upper atmosphere begins evaporating. Hydrogen gas is stripped away at a rate of nearly 1,000 tons per second. Blasted off into space by radiation, the planet has no way to deflect or move away from. The planet's atmosphere extends far higher than models initially predicted, which only makes it a larger target, more atmosphere exposed to the star, more of it burned away with every flare. The star is dissolving this planet in real time, measurably, in data we already have, and the planet cannot move. It is frozen in place by the same tidal lock that created its violent atmosphere in the first place, permanently facing the source of its destruction, unable to widen its orbit or change its position by a single kilometer. It just loses mass close to 1 billion kilograms of itself every second into the void. This is not unusual for this class of planet. What is unusual is how well we can see it happening. This world orbits close enough to Earth and crosses in front of its star at precisely the right angle, that it has become the most thoroughly characterized exoplanet atmosphere in existence. It was the first planet outside our solar system to have a complete thermal map, constructed scientists building a temperature chart of an entire alien world from 63 light years away. The first exoplanet to have its true color directly measured. The first caught transiting its star in X-rays, which is how the evaporation was confirmed. The first to have carbon dioxide detected in its atmosphere. It has been observed by Hubble, by Spitzer, by Chandra, by ground-based observatories across multiple continents. Every method tried, every instrument pointed at it. Every result has come back the same. A world with every physical characteristic of a planet and every atmospheric characteristic of an ongoing catastrophe. The broader implication sits underneath all of it quietly. Gas giants like this one cannot form where they are found. The material available that close to a star is too thin and too disrupted by radiation to build a Jupiter-class world. These planets assembled in the cold outer regions of their solar systems, where the raw material was dense and plentiful, and then migrated inward over millions of years, pulled by gravitational interactions with the disk of gas and dust they formed in, spiraling closer and closer until they settled into these extreme tight orbits. Anything that had formed in their path before they arrived was likely disrupted or ejected. Our own Jupiter did a version of this in the early solar system, migrating inward before Saturn's gravity reversed its course and pulled it back out. The fact that it stopped, rather than continuing inward, is considered one of the reasons the inner solar system stayed stable enough for Earth to form and remain in a habitable orbit. A small gravitational difference billions of years ago, and this conversation doesn't happen. 63 light years away, permanently facing the star that is slowly stripping it apart, soaked in enough radiation to evaporate nearly 1 billion kilograms of itself every second, blanketed in molten glass moving at 7 times the speed of sound, wearing a color so close to Earth's that people compared it to home. This planet is the universe being completely direct with us. Space is not empty backdrop. It is full of worlds, and most of them are nothing like this one, and some of them are exactly like this one. And the difference between a world that produces life and a world that produces molten glass rain comes down to distances measured in millions of kilometers and orbital positions decided billions of years ago. Not every blue dot is home. Some of them are just beautiful from a distance. And at every other scale, temperature, pressure, wind, radiation, chemistry, they are lethal in ways we are still learning to measure. If you want more of this, subscribe to dive deeper into the dark mysteries of space.